the fucking barefoot slap. Hello.
Hello, and welcome back to Chillin' Thrill Reviews, where we dive into the dark, the disturbing, and the downright terrifying. If you're watching this, you probably love horror almost as much as we do. In this episode, we will be dissecting The Autopsy of Jane Doe, a supernatural horror film surrounding an autopsy of a mystery woman found unscathed at a brutal murder scene. As father-son morticianer duo go through the procedure, they notice strange occurrences the deeper they go, trying to find out what happened to her. They begin to discover ritualistic tortures performed on her, and that leads them to the terrifying conclusion of what's really going on.
Yeah, I'll start off. This is
your ninth time seeing this movie.
It is, I think, my fourth time
This
watching
is ridiculous.
this film, and
So
I
you
love it.
literally like watching dead bodies with tits out.
It's a bit of a thing for me. Some people might call it necrophilia. I call it passion. It is what it is. I'm not gonna debate it right now.
People call it necrophilia. I call it passion.
But no, this is
not
one of
okay.
my favorite films. As far as horror goes, it's pretty unsettling. I think the theme around an autopsy is pretty unique. I haven't seen or heard of another movie that does that. It's like a mid-burn, I guess. It's fairly early on. I want to say like 30 minutes into the movie that we start to see some stuff.
So what would you rate this movie out of?
Yes.
Well, there's more that I want to point out.
I like this movie, by the way. I didn't think I was going to like. I can't wait for my part.
Yeah. So like, there's a couple things I want to point out. Firstly, later on in the film, the father reveals that he used to call his wife and the boy's mother Ray because she was a ray of sunshine. In the beginning of the movie, and later, in later parts of the film, the song that continues playing is "Let the Sun Shine In." The father
is it
also
the same words, or
it
is
is
it?
yeah, it's the same song, same words. Let the sun shine in. And then later the father knows, if I would have known, I would have helped her, referencing his ex-wife, who it's implied that she had some kind of depression or disease and took her life or died. And he's saying, if I would have known, I would have helped her. And then that's reflected in him later on. That song is playing, and they do some investigating, and they realize this woman is in pain. The father realizes that, and he says, "Let me help you, please. Just don't hurt my son." And that's after he had that moment with his son in the elevator, saying, "If I would have known, I would have helped your mother, and instead you're suffering for my mistakes." And then the next eventful scene is him trying to help that woman who he realizes is in pain in order to save his son. And the son once again ends up bearing the consequences of that later on in the film. And I thought that was a really good sequence. I didn't notice the first time. I didn't recognize it the first time.
So this is my first time watching it. I didn't notice it. So that's pretty cool that you noticed that. I didn't notice that.
Mm-hmm. There was, oh my gosh, there were a couple other things that I noticed, and I made a mental note to bring it up during this, and I'm forgetting it now. So I'll end my part, and I'll pass it on, and if I remember it, I'm gonna give it. Oh wow, this is tough because. So I'll say the practical effects, them performing the autopsy on the body, I assume is practical effects, looked phenomenal. It looked very realistic. I've never dissected a body, but it looked really good for what it is. I don't know if they used any CGI in this. If they did, I couldn't tell.
I'm sure they
All of
used
the
some CGI. Let's look it up.
yeah,
Look it
all
up.
the effects, all
See?
the effects were great. There were a couple scenes that I thought were a bit odd. The father, when they're in his office and he just gets yanked back by seemingly nothing. I thought that was a bit weird. I didn't think it really tracked with other things that happened. Um, I the hallucinogenics aspect of it, where they're hallucinating that it's a corpse walking towards them, when in reality it's the guy's girlfriend. I think her name was Emma. When in reality it's Emma walking towards them. I didn't really understand how that fit in to the rest of it. I thought it was I thought it was cool, but I didn't quite fit it with everything else. So I think given all that, and I've watched this 4 times, and me personally, I don't like rewatching films, but this is one that I don't mind rewatching. I think I'm going to give this one a 9 out of 10. And I say that, not knowing what makes a film a 10 out of 10.
Yeah,
I don't know what I
so
would give a 10 out of 10.
it's a 9 out of 10, but it's not. It's weird to say like it's in the same ballpark as Alien, but it's not the same movie, so you don't like compare the two. But at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, is like in its own realm, it's a 9 out of 10. That's the idea I
Yeah.
think of
Yeah.
when I'm
'Cause-
rating the movie.
Yeah, because it fits into weird genres. Because, like I said, this is the only film that I've seen that focuses on an autopsy of all things, and it kind of
That's
fits
what
into
I said.
it fits into body horror, real world horror, and
Yeah, and
supernatural horror all at the
oh
same
my
time.
god, I can't wait to rate this movie, bro. I just gotta say, I'm not a fan of most body horror. This
Hmm.
did it well. This
I
did
think
it.
it did.
It's not disgusting. You know what I mean? It's
Hmm.
not over the top horror, or not horror, but like disgust. I hate being disgusted during a movie because it turns me away from the practical, like the whole point of the movie. But this didn't do it to the point where it was disgusting, I guess. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe it's because she was already dead.
Hmm.
But yeah, I
Yeah,
liked it.
I guess I guess a 9 out of 10 is fitting for me because my only complaints would be the couple of things not fitting in with the film, like the telekinetic ghost pulling the father back for some reason, and what was the other part of it? Oh, they seem to just be putting things together and jumping to really odd conclusions for men of science, I have to assume, being morticians, and they're assuming that the the cadaver in their lab is causing all these supernatural effects is a really
Well,
odd conclusion to jump to after they
I'm
know that there's a storm outside and their power went out. That's just an odd,
The
you know.
power
so
didn't just go out. Bodies came out of the fucking
so
closets. They started
I'm
walking
That's
going to
also
around.
true.
argue. I'm going to argue against that because the son is younger. And
Hmm.
I gotta say, when you're younger and less experienced with these things, if the power goes out, these bodies go disappear, you're gonna think it's horror or supernatural, rather. Like,
I can see that
cause
too.
you're gonna think that you're gonna rule into it, cause you see in movies and shit like that. Like I'm gonna assume that kid is less than 30 years old, so he's somewhere in his 20s.
Hmm.
You're gonna think that it's some sort of supernatural being. You're gonna come to that conclusion because you've been exposed to it more, rather than a guy that's in his 40s or 50s that hasn't seen that type of like movies or content at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That and he's been in it longer and hasn't experienced any of that. I would feel like he would be like, that's not happening. You know what I mean? He's trying to rule it out
Yeah.
more, and I think that's the difference. And I think it does it well,
I
actually.
I just want to say real quick because I think you guys will find it funny after we just watch that. I felt something weird and I turned around and Julie had opened the door to this room and was just poking her head in through the door, watching me at like a completely sideways.
It'd be
I
fucking
almost
creepy.
just pissed actually. That scared the
Next
fuck out of
time,
me.
just beat her. You know.
Yeah,
I think
she's crouching in the corner of the room. Yeah.
I think I would have to fight my wife.
Yeah,
like
she scared the hell
like
out of
if
me just now.
Beverly turned around the corner and looked like that, I think I would have to fight her. Anyway, I'm gonna go into my review since you're done, Kim. You're gonna stick at a 9 out of 10.
I'm gonna give it a 9.5 out of 10 because,
Ooh, you're
like I
going
said,
hard.
I don't know what
I
makes a
am keeping
perfect film,
track of these just so y'all know.
but this is as
So
close as I can get.
for
This is my
future reference.
favorite horror film that I've watched.
So I'm not gonna say this is my favorite horror film that I've watched, but I was going into this to think it was gonna be a little too much on the body horror side and not so much of the surreal. Like I came in and I was like, oh man, this is gonna be an hour of people getting cut open and I'm gonna feel uncomfortable as fuck. And I didn't get that. I wasn't uncomfortable at any point. It was enough of a like thriller aspect of it where like you were on the edge of your seat trying to figure out what was going on into the end, and it even left on a note of like I don't know what really happened. And I like that. I like horror movies that end on that note because I like answering the story to myself. And so I kind of already rated it prematurely before the movie started.
A premature evaluation.
Yeah. And it's nowhere even like I thought that I was gonna end up rating this movie very low, and I'm not going to. I think this movie is an 8.5 or a 9 out of 10. I thought this movie was well paced. I thought that the story was really well written. I don't think at any point in this movie I thought it was boring. So yeah, I think I'm gonna put it 9 out of 10. I think this movie was pretty well done for what it was. You could tell that not a lot of money went into this movie, but I think that giving its income, or not income, but uh, Jacob, help me with the word.
Budget.
Budget. Thank you. I think that it was a really well written movie, and I like the movie a lot. And yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. I like. The only part I didn't like is the fucking cat. Why the fuck did we have to kill a cat on screen?
That
Well, it
yeah.
didn't die on screen.
Yes, it did.
No, it
He
did.
broke his neck on
They
the
snapped
screen.
its
No, you
neck.
didn't see it though. It like you saw his face and you saw him jolt his shoulder back, but you don't see the cat like.
Fair enough. Fair enough. It did show like from his point, like behind him, he
Yeah.
did snap his neck. Fair enough. You do have a point, but
I know.
it was sad nonetheless. I had to pet my cat after.
Always pet your cat.
I will pass this to actually.
I might actually have to like physically abuse my fiance. I thought she left the room. She
Can't
did
wait for that
not.
to go into the video.
She did not. She crawled under my desk and just grabbed my ankles while I'm sitting here.
Oh, your ankles, huh?
What?
Yeah, I had
That's why your hands are up like this, because she's got you by the ankles. Yeah, all right.
I had no
All
idea
right.
she was in here.
Yeah.
Cody,
I had no idea she was in here.
Cody, what
think-
what did you think? Oh, sorry, Curtis, if you weren't done.
I think if my wife did half the shit that you did, I'd kick her by now. Like, what are you doing?
Okay. So what do we got so far? Cam, you're at a 9.5.
I'm at
9.5.
a
Curtis.
9.
Curtis
And
at a 9.
I gotta say, I will add in, I rated Alien at a 9.5. So this is a little bit lower on the tier, because Alien is just classic. That's all I'll say. Cody, go ahead.
Right. So here's the thing. I do like this movie. This is a good movie, right? Kept us on our toes, kept us wondering. I I do like the ritualistic horror. Like I like that they leaned into witchcraft and all that. But as Camden mentioned, I don't like how they got to their conclusions. They went from knowing nothing to everything just because they had a heart to heart in an elevator over the boy's dead girlfriend. Suddenly, oh, there's something she doesn't want us to find. Suddenly, I mean, what, he flipped the cloth over and he's like, this says Leviticus. It's like, what? The way they got to some of their conclusions is just a little, we need to end this movie. Let's just give it to him.
How long was this movie?
Hour
An hour and
20
21 minutes.
Yes. Pretty short.
Okay.
Relatively short, I'd say.
Alien was. I know I'm referring to Alien, but it's the only one we have rated right now. So,
About 2 hours.
No, Alien was also about an hour and 20 minutes. I was surprised during it.
But, so yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of how they got to their conclusions. And then, as Curtis said, they leave the ending up to the imagination as to what happens next. That's nice and all, but they pretty much force fed us all the answers and then still left the ending up to the imagination. Like at that point, I feel like they tried to kind of cram together two different endings. And ending styles, I'll say. Two different ending styles. Because, like, okay, you've got the bad ending where everybody dies and the ghost or whatever wins, right? But then you've got it being sent off, and what happens next is up to your imagination. Like, it's two different ending styles that I don't think can be forced together like that.
The only reason I like that is because, like, I feel like a forced ending sometimes is done the wrong way, and then people complain about it. Typically, that's the only reason I said that.
I don't know how you see it as like a missed ending, because in this case it's like it's akin to like the ghost is off and it's continuing to hunt. That's pretty much what it was. It decimated this family and now it's off to decimate another. And
I'm just saying that what caused it to, because it's following the body, obviously, but
I don't know. To me, it's just the way they get all the answers, and then it's up to your imagination at the end. That's
I
what kind of
understand
gets
that.
it for me. Like, okay, like Hereditary. We got some answers, like some stuff was explained at the end, but we were still left with so many questions. And then we were still left with what happens next is up to our imagination. Like, there was a lot of shit unanswered there. And then it was done. I mean, we saw the very end scene where they're like bowing to him, but then it was done. We didn't have half the answers we wanted, and the ending was left up to our imagination. Whereas this one, we had literally all of the answers, and then it's left up to our imagination. It doesn't feel like it fits
what's
right
up to
with
the
that.
imagination?
I guess what happens next.
Oh, she's gonna fuck up the other wherever she goes.
well,
the next
like
county.
that's what I'm saying, because it was ended. Tell me if I'm wrong, but it was ended where like the cop and they were still investigating, like what.
Well,
No.
is she gonna?
She was being sent off to be buried somewhere.
I know, but
So
they're
is
still
she gonna fuck up?
investigating the place.
Is she gonna fuck up where she ends up next, or is she gonna fuck up the cop in the van? And can she move now? She wiggled her toe at the very end.
The only
Which-
reason she fucked up the other people was because she was being tortured. Her body was being tortured and mangled.
Right, I understand that, but then you also say that she's on the hunt. If she's only fucking
He's
people up
using-
because she's being tortured, she's not hunting. It's
He's
revenge, like the doctor
He's using
said.
that as a reference, like as if like they're gonna kill whoever's nearby. That's what he means by hunt.
Well, yeah, but so he's saying that
Right,
she's
yeah.
gonna kill whoever's nearby, but then also saying that she only killed them because they were torturing her. So
I guess I'm confused.
which one? I'm confused too. It's
I
not.
like the movie though. That's the weird part.
No,
Like,
I
the
like the
movie's
movie. I'm
quite
not saying it was a
handy.
bad movie.
What did you
I don't
rate
think
it,
I'm
Cody?
satisfied with the way it ended.
So,
Um,
Code. Sorry, real quick before you rate, if I could say something. Yeah, the reason that all that happened to them is because they performed an autopsy on her while she was technically alive and she could feel it all. In the beginning of the movie, the family died when they began to dig up the body. At
yes.
least how I got that was they were doing renovations or something of the sort on their basement and they dug up the body, and I can only assume based on some of the injuries that we saw, the caved in face, and when they first found her, her upper torso and face were exposed. I assume shovel to the face, right?
But when was there a caved in face?
In the maybe not,
The other
sorry,
Early,
bodies.
not caved
early,
in, but
early,
damaged, bloody face, right?
Yeah.
In the
early.
beginning of the film.
There's a weird, and that's where I thought the CGI was coming in because I don't think that's practical. That
Hmm.
scene specifically, there's like a caved in face of her
But
like super early.
maybe, but and then so that was on one of the members of the family in the house in the beginning of the film, and then towards the end we see uh, part of her ritual is that the injuries inflicted upon her were transferred to the father, and as a
Yes.
result she healed. So my guess,
Yeah.
as far as the beginning goes,
Ooh,
they were digging her up, hit her with the shovel, and then those injuries were transferred to the family, and her body was healed, and they were trying to escape the house. That's my interpretation of it. But to circle back to what you said before about how it's kind of left up to like, well, what happens next? That's just the ending of a movie, In Hereditary, when uh the demonic god was summoned, it's like, well, wow, what happens now? There's a god walking amongst men. In The Ritual, the guy gets away from the bastard child of Loki, and it's like, well, what happens next? Does he tell people about that, or does he just go home and
That's
act
a
like
little
three of his best
that's
friends
Well,
didn't just
brushing off
die?
Cody's point though. I get what Cody's saying is that she
I was just
shakes
saying
her
if you're
toes, she wiggles her toes, and the song plays.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is she hunting next or what? I
I was
get what
just saying
Cody's saying.
if you're
are
gonna put
you
it up like that,
saying?
you can say that at the end of every movie.
Are
I
you
mean, fuck.
Yeah,
saying
that's
that
fair.
you're wondering if
You
they're
can.
gonna target the
The cop that's in
investigators
there.
Yeah.
or
So
the
that's
ambulance driver
that's what I
that's
was
gonna be?
trying. So I wasn't truly saying I wonder what happens next. I was trying to point out the fact that it's a movie that gives you literally all the answers. Like at the end of almost every movie we've watched, we googled something. Whether sometimes it was just facts about the movies, other times it was an explanation for something that wasn't explained to us, especially like Hereditary. So it literally gave us all the answers, but then at the end it's almost like a cliffhanger, like they were planning a second one, like the toe wiggle and playing the Sunshine song in the cop car.
Yeah.
That's what I was
No, it
getting at.
does. It
I'm not
does.
getting at, oh, why did she hurt them? I know why she hurt them.
Yeah.
That was made apparently clear. I'm just
I will
saying.
No.
I will say I don't like the toe wiggle. That seems a little too James Cameron to me. Like,
It's like a gimmick at the end.
it's a gimmick. It's a very gimmicky end. I like the radio playing, but I would have preferred it be like something he flipped to a random channel and that was what was playing. So then you can leave it up to
Yeah.
interpretation after that instead of it just switching off and immediately going to something else. I don't really care for the ending, as kind of like Cody said.
I Once again, I'm not trying to say I didn't like this movie. I thought this was a good movie, but the ending really just it's just how they just suddenly jumped to all these conclusions like Camden said. Like the answers were force fed to us. There was no the movie was coming to an end. They're like, hey guys, we're on a budget, we're on a time limit, let's just throw everything in and then end the movie. I don't like it. I don't. Hereditary was a slow burn. You're given pieces of information through the whole thing. And this movie was just here's everything at once, and then they're dead. So,
I can
anyways,
see that.
this is going on a while. I did still think it was a good movie. I am gonna give it a 7. I like this movie, and I do like the scare factor in it. But the ending is why it is not going higher for me. The ending really ruined it for me personally. So 7 out of 10 for me. With that being said, um, I'm gonna go ahead and move it on to you, Jake.
Okay.
Last but not least.
So I
Did
know
you say 7 out of 10?
Yes.
two of you guys have pointed out so far that the pacing was a little bit off and like they're just finding evidence. I get like I understand what you're saying there, but it's also like, do you want them to show all of the boring parts of them digging through the body and cutting each individual's piece off and doing a full-on autopsy until they find those things, or do you want to see the most important parts?
That's
That's
fair.
how I
Well,
see it.
yes, but the it's the way they found it more
Yeah.
so. Like the sudden, oh, there's something she doesn't want us to find. Boom, flipping over the rag. Leviticus, and he's like, "Hey,
Yeah.
I know for a fact that's a Bible verse where she's a
Well,
witch. Oh, Dad, she's a
Leviticus.
witch. We
Yeah.
burnt her and she was fine." And then he's like, "Maybe they made her a witch by torturing someone innocent. How the fuck could you guess something
Yeah.
like that?
Obviously, that is
Oh,
jumping to
Like,
conclusions, but there was a few things like the peat under the thing under the things, the ritualistic stuff written all over her body, the tooth in her body. All of these things allude to witchcraft.
Mhm.
Uh, Not that they know that the jumping to conclusions that she was an innocent tortured and became a witch. Yes, that's a little on the fence and like kind of hard to just know that that's true. Hey, and maybe it's not. Maybe that's just the story that was made up by a mortician who died later on. Maybe she was a witch the entire time. It's
Mhm.
kind of hard to tell because maybe
Yeah.
maybe their stories weren't 100% correct. You know.
Yeah. I do see both points of it, you know. Like to the point Cody was making, I feel like most of the answers were given in like the last 20 minutes of it, but to Jake's point, it did allude to those answers in the beginning of it when they first started the autopsy. You know, it's not like it was all just suddenly sprung upon us in the latter half of it. It was alluded, like they alluded to the answers and they kind of built on it as they went throughout it. So I do see both sides of that. Yeah.
Hmm. And then I really like uh, this obviously isn't a theme that comes up very often in horror. I don't really think there's many other, mortician themed movies out there. Um,
not that
but
I
I
know of.
like the theme. I like the sense of dread because they are trapped in the basement. At the very beginning, they show you two entrances into the basement, and they show you that both exits are blocked and they are completely trapped down there. I like that it's a relationship between a father and son, and it's just an old guy just trying to show his craft to his son. I loved the bell thing where
Mm-hmm.
like the bell was playing, and they just alluded to at the very beginning. They were talking how, oh yeah, just a general superstition, and I like to basically I'm a traditional man. I like to just do it because it's historical and the field that he's working in. And
I
then
did.
for it to,
I like that scene. I forgot about that scene. Thanks for
yeah,
making a reference to that scene. Cause he's not. It obviously doesn't hold any actual value, but
right. He
he's
thinks
like,
nothing of it.
yeah,
It's just something he
and
does, like
it's
almost
just
like a
because it
hobby.
was the classic thing to do.
And then
Yeah.
for later there to be a scene where the doors are closed and they can hear the bell ding 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 approaching the door. That's a really effective scene for me. All in all, I've watched this movie probably more times than Cam because I think I'm the one who showed it to him
No,
originally.
I watched
Okay.
this before I liked you.
Okay. Anyways,
Wow.
I'll give this an 8.5.
8.5. Are you
Yeah.
sure?
Yeah.
I want to
Are
point
you
out
actually
to
sure?
maybe it'll raise somebody's rating. There was a lot of excellent foreshadowing, like you just mentioned, the bell. Um, there was the mirror. They had a shot where they showed that convex mirror in the beginning and how it pointed down the hallways.
The
They
cat jumping out of
foreshadowed.
the out of the vent at the very beginning. Yeah.
The the woman, the Emma coming back. I don't want to say that was really foreshadowing because they blatantly said come back at 11, and she did show back up. There was a bit of a overlap or a foreshadowing with the dad jump scaring Emma with that bell, and then in the later half of the movie, she it's like a sick twist where that bell scared him
Does
into harming her. Kind of a bit of a
does
twist there.
anybody want to change their rating?
I think Cody wanted to give it. I think Cody texted me. He said he wanted to bump it up to a 9. He's muted.
Wow.
So this movie,
No, no, not
given
muted.
the average, is less than Alien. It is an 8.5 out
No,
of
that's
10
fair.
on average, which is a good movie.
Yeah.
That's actually really solid. Really good rating. Um, yeah, I think that anybody that likes horror should watch this movie.
This would be a must watch for us, I think.
I think it's a must watch.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's any reason not to watch this movie.
I think it's, I don't know. It's a good movie. I wouldn't say like if you're an intense horror fan, it wouldn't be like the craziest movie to watch.
If you're a super horror fan, it's definitely like you gotta watch something eventually. So you should
Yeah.
watch something that's decent.
Yeah.
It's
It's not
decent
bad.
movie.
Yeah. It's not bad.
8 out of
Yeah.
8.5 out of 10.
I think that's
How
pretty
does
good.
that compare to the
Um,
Google reviews?
Oh, that's a good question.
We should hang on before we go over Google reviews. We should probably end this recording. This is a
Yeah.
very long one.
So, if you
let's get that
don't
outro.
subscribe and like, I will kill you and then perform an autopsy on you. And
Yeah.
then you will haunt me after.
And then
So-
Yeah,
I'll
we're just going right for it. Okay.
It's kind
I'll
of a win-win.